Hello and welcome to another SciPhi Short. If this is your first SciPhi Short, these are very short videos that are supposed to describe a very small aspect of a topic and hopefully clear up any misconceptions. I've been working on a few ideas recently, and I've been going over some of the memes that we atheists use and seeing if there's any problems with them and other words that people tend to get a little bit wrong or misconstrue or conflate with other things. So today's episode is on the word belief. So, belief. What is a belief? Well, it's common to hear that a belief is something accepted without evidence, or someone say, I don't have any beliefs. The former might be linked to an erroneous or biased reading of the top Google definition, and the latter is just plain wrong. With this SciPhi Short, we will be exploring the basics of belief. So what is a belief? Belief can be defined in a number of ways that are all actually essentially saying the same thing, and we will explore a few tonight with some examples. These can be something accepted as true, something thought most likely, a positive attitude towards a proposition, something concluded is the case. By accepted as true, we're not making the claim that it is definitely true, just that we accept that it probably is. For example, if I tell you my name is Joe and you accept that, you hold the belief that my name is Joe. If you check your phone for the weather forecast and accept the prediction, you believe that prediction and will most likely change your plans if they are weather dependent. If you accept your friend's story that they went to the beach at the weekend as true, you believe they went to the beach at the weekend. But in those terms, it's quite simple to see how we might have plenty of beliefs, right? By most likely, we are into the realms of probability. In other words, if there was a 3 in 4 chance of something would happen, it is most likely that that event will happen. For example, if you think it likely it will rain tomorrow, you believe it will rain tomorrow. If you think it likely that you will injure yourself doing something dangerous, you believe doing something dangerous will cause you injury. If you think your preferred sports team has a good chance of beating their opponent in the next game, you believe they will beat their opponent. Again, it's quite easy to see how we actually have a number of beliefs. A proposition is a truth-apt statement. It can be true or false. For example, the light switch is on, and if it's true, then that is on, and if it's false, it is off. It is raining outside. Again, if it's true, it means it's raining, and if it's false, it means it's not raining. Or God exists, and if that proposition is true, then yeah, God exists, and if it's false, God does not exist. Propositions can be expressed in various ways, but usually are the flat proposition or phrase as a question, like, does God exist? Please note, a question is not a proposition, but it can hold propositional content. Now that we're clear on what we mean by proposition, we can move on to the attitude. A positive attitude is essentially one of agreement or affirmation. If we are to affirm the proposition God exists, or propositional question, does God exist, we would essentially be saying, yes, God exists. By affirming, we are saying, it is true God exists, aka we are saying we believe God exists. This is not a claim of absolute certainty or knowledge, just what we think is most likely the case. If we answer the proposition no, we are essentially saying that we think it is false. If God exists is false, we are essentially holding the inverse positive attitude, that God does not exist is true. You can also be unsure and not think either yes nor no. This is known as suspending judgment. Something concluded is the case. Well, a conclusion is usually seen as a judgment or opinion reached to by reasoning. When you conclude something is the case, you are thinking this thing is the most likely, so you are accepting that conclusion as true. If we think about a detective examining the evidence, they would draw conclusions about the most probable explanation for the evidence. Gut feelings aside, they would usually accept this conclusion true and therefore hold a positive attitude towards the proposition Agent X committed the crime. Of course, a conclusion doesn't need to be as well-reasoned as this. In fact, the reasoning speaks more to rationality, which I will discuss in a future video. So can you have no beliefs? If you understand that a belief is anything we accept as true, it is pretty impossible to hold no beliefs. Supposed to say no, N-O, and I've put the word no. Even if someone is saying, I hold no beliefs, they are essentially saying that they accept that as true, that they hold no beliefs. So they believe they hold no beliefs. If anyone truly held no beliefs, they wouldn't be able to operate. Imagine not believing the floor would hold your weight, that food would sustain you, or that you needed to breathe, etc. Mostly, folks who say this sort of thing are afraid of appearing irrational because they only attribute belief with beliefs they see as irrational and assume that is all beliefs. Ironically, in the process, they then hold an irrational belief themselves. Rationality is a big part of belief, but not all beliefs are irrational. And as I mentioned earlier, this is one for the future. So in summary, whilst a belief can be defined in a number of different ways, they are all essentially saying the same thing. Something accepted as true, something thought most likely, a positive attitude towards a proposition, something concluded is the case. It is impossible not to have any beliefs, because even thinking you hold no beliefs is a belief. A belief, by default, is not something irrational. And as I mentioned twice before, we will cover rationality of beliefs in a future SciPhi Short. And that was it. That was much quicker than the last one. I didn't quite hit the 5-minute mark, but there you go. I'm about 7.5 minutes so far. So that was just a quick overview of beliefs and what a belief is. And hopefully you now have a better understanding of the topic. But that's it from me. I hope you've had an enjoyable brief stay on the SciPhi Short. I'm Joe. Have a good one.